Welcome to the T2 Hubcast with me, James Cooper.
And me, Bernice Casserly.
We are here, Bernice, because, again, I've come back to a stage in the year where I do quite a lot of reflecting. I've also understood that maybe I've not been the best listener in the past. And I just wanted to delve into a little bit of detail for this and everybody else that's watching or listening, for them to understand, okay, well, what happens? What then happens next? And is there anything we can do to help not just us at T2, but for everybody that's out on one of the, wherever you're listening to it? Are you listening to the conversations that you should be having?
Yeah.
What I've realised is that I find it quite difficult to tame what we're going to call advice monsters.
Yeah.
And I've been doing quite a lot of reflecting on that to understand that what are some of the stories that I think could be relevant for the people that are listening to say, you know, what does it look like? What does it feel like? Or how can we sort of adapt or tweak to be able to do so? My thing being is that one specific example was where I've really struggled with a work-life balance. I thought that everybody needs to be up and on it the same way that I was at this period of time in my career, but actually understanding that not everybody works the same way I do. What basically happened, to the shortened story, Bernice, is of 3 months of implementing a new process that records every single interaction with some of the people that we work with. I was too busy trying to get things done, and actually it wasn't about them and the way that they spoke, it was all about me. And my distractions away from that particular environment and the support I was trying to give those people was a real issue. I was just assuming a lot of things, Bernice. I was assuming that things were going the way that they should be going, rather than actually asking the questions.
What stopped you from listening? Or did you think that you were listening to people?
I think I was just jumping. It was a lack of understanding.
Okay.
I didn't understand some of the frustrations that they were going through. I actually thought, you know what, we're doing it. We're getting it done.
Yeah.
Again, we talk about psychological safety a lot.
Yes.
I don't think that environment was particularly a psychologically safe one, where the people in that team maybe didn't even feel that they could voice their opinions in the right way.
Yeah.
And not necessarily me, but the environment that was created might be one of, you know what, I don't even trust what you're saying, because we've been told this before, and here we go again, and having that conversation, but people just not taking their own responsibility. Ambiguity sets in.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. It even created silos. Because I was trying to divide and conquer the people that I thought were disruptors.
Yes.
And they're not disruptors. They're just not being listened to. So they're frustrated.
Yes.
They're getting annoyed with the working environment. And again, taking things out of context and not engaging with actually, we're sat in this room again and James is going to go off his rocker again because we've not done this or we've not done that. He won't listen to a word we say because it's his way or the highway. And really, who am I? Who am I, the person that should be telling you that you don't need to listen to your excuses?
Yeah.
When really, I needed to do more than that. I needed to listen to the story that was behind it.
Yes. And I think I love to start off with, I love that you've just been really kind of open and honest. As human beings, we don't always like showing that little bit of vulnerability, and you've done that on a podcast with potentially who knows watching or listening. So I love that to start off with. But I think this is also, that story that you've shared there, something that potentially every single person who is watching or listening to this podcast can relate to.
Yeah.
In certain situations, especially in a workplace when it's fast-paced, it's energetic and we've got stuff to do, it can be so easy to stop and truly listen. And I think if you asked anyone, are you a good listener? People would reply saying, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm a good listener. But actually, good listening should be a little bit like a trampoline, which is a bit of a kind of statement that came from a Harvard Business Review article that kind of sparked us off on doing this particular podcast.
Got our curiosity juices flowing, didn't it, Bernice?
Spark our curiosity. So while many of us have thought of being a good listener is almost like being a bit of a sponge where we are absorbing what the other person is saying, that is then where it's always a case of the head's tilted on the side. We've got lots of, we turn into the nodding dog.
Totally understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, lots of verbal cues
right
there.
On board, yes.
But actually what finding findings show is that good listeners are like trampolines. They are someone you can bounce ideas off. Rather than absorbing your ideas and energy, they amplify, energize, and clarify your thinking. That's what good listeners do.
If I like to have a structure. So if I was to implement, and we've got these 6 levels that I'm going to just run through nice and quick. If I apply these 6 different levels, I can create an environment where I can listen and people feel that they can be heard.
Yes, but in order for you to listen, you need to be conscious and aware of your advice monster.
Okay, so these advice monsters then. Mm-hmm. As far as I'm aware and what we deliver, 3 advice monsters. The first one, tell it.
Yes.
I jump down your throat and tell you exactly what I think before I've actually got all the information.
Yeah, and you've got all of the answers.
I need, because I am the one that can definitely tell you exactly what this picture means to me. Now, Michael Bungay Stanier turns around and says, you don't need all the answers. Mm-hmm. You might need to ask the questions. And if one of his books, The Coaching Habit, he's got those 7 questions that we actually touch point on and have a lot of detail that come with those. Mm-hmm. But if I'm too busy telling you what to do, I'm nowhere near asking a question.
No.
Too busy advising you on exactly what I think, because I've seen this before, Bernice. We've had this conversation before. Mm-hmm. This is what that is.
Definitely.
I can make the link very easily for you, because I'm going to tell you all about it. Yeah. Second advice monster, save it. I'm jumping into the situation because I need to be able to, it's from a more compassionate place, right?
Definitely. There's definitely a level of care with the save it, because it's a case of I need to kind of save it for all things for everyone. So it isn't just a case of telling the tell it, is I have the answers and I know how to solve this, fix this, or whatever it might be. Yeah. The save it is you want to kind of step up for others as well.
And then the final one, if you think about it, is about control.
Yes.
To control it.
Yeah.
And having that conversation to say, no, don't do that, do this. Yeah. Don't do that, do this. Mm-hmm. No, what are you doing? Don't stop doing that because you need to do this bit.
Yes.
Jumping in before you actually listen to what people have got to say. Mm-hmm. Let's go into a little bit of a detail around those, obviously putting that advice monster away and having that conversation with yourself. But what are the benefits of taming your advice monster?
Taming your advice monster, it gives you the opportunity to be curious. Right. Which is really what we need to do, because we all have an advice monster. Your advice monster will always step in every single conversation. Even for us recording this podcast, our advice monsters are jumping in because there's something that we want to say, whether it be a tell it, save it, or control it situation. So the first thing that we need to do is be aware of your advice monster when it steps in, and then it's a case of actually, how can I be a little bit more curious here? So that the advice monster doesn't take control.
So I think when we come back to what the possible outcomes of poor listening, and all of those ones that came with the story that I said at the beginning, there is certain things that we can do from a environment or environmental point of view for us to create the best environment for people to actually feel as if they can have that conversation or at least be listened to.
Yes.
So for good listeners then, they create these 6 levels and these environments that I'm just going to run through quite quickly. So level 1, listeners creates a safe environment. And this is from the Harvard Business Review, where we've got the quote about the trampoline earlier. But understanding that the environment has to be safe for people to then know that they can have that difficult or more complex communication. Mm-hmm. 2, listeners clears away distractions like phones, laptops. Anything that you think is going to get in the way of me listening to you or you listening to me, that's a no-go. Mm-hmm. Not having it. Thank you very much. Nope. Put your phone away. This is important to me.
Yes.
I think the message that comes with that is that nothing else matters right now because I'm trying to engage with this. Level 3, listener seeks to understand the substance of what the person is saying. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of a difference with level 4 because the listener observes non-verbal cues, those facial expressions. The things that really could go, and what is the body language saying? Are you open to the communication? Mm-hmm. Or has somebody had an environment that's got nothing to do with you? They've just got off for one meeting, they come into your communication, and you know that person is fuming. They are furious with what's going on. And this now is not the right environment to be having this conversation. Yeah. Because you can see it. I think from a T2 point of view, me and Tracy mentioned about facial fireworks. So if you annoyed me, normally you can see it. And then if you start to look at that level 5, where listening increases understanding, thinking about their emotions and the feelings, what impact is this having on that person emotionally, for you to then get to the bottom of that, or not necessarily get to the bottom of it, but understand that I'm going to support you on this. And by the way, I'm not going to judge you on this. It's a non-judgmental way of working. And that's where the support comes from. And then finally, that level 6, where the listener asks questions to clarify their assumptions. What potential questions could we have for somebody to go, you know what, these are, if you're going to start with any questions, start with these.
Yeah.
What do you think, Bernice?
So for us, we definitely would recommend the questions that are highlighted in the Coaching Habit book. So for anyone who hasn't heard of it, the Coaching Habit, Say Less, Ask More, and Change the Way That You Lead Forever. So that book itself explores 7 different types of questions, and what you can do, it might be in certain situations that you just kind of focus on a couple of those. Okay. So sometimes when it comes to taming your advice monster, it might be something as simple as, well, asking the question, what's the real challenge here for you? Which actually in the Coaching Habit book is kind of like the third question. But sometimes in the moment, that's a good one to just spark that curiosity to help that person in the moment if help is what's needed. So the 7 questions are: the question 1, the kickstart question. What's on your mind? So this is a good way of just starting off a conversation to really explore and kind of get that focus, because it needs to be open as well. So it's just a real nice, good, open question. Question 2, which we love these types of questions, the all question, and what else? Okay. There's something so powerful in simply asking the question, and what else? What else? And what else? That is where we are truly having to, as you describe it, eliminate distractions in that moment, ensure that we're maintaining a safe environment. We're taming our advice monsters in that situation significantly. But it's really important that we ask that question, because it might be that actually the challenge or the problem that person thinks that they have is actually kind of being influenced by something else. That's the power of asking the and what else question.
It goes down to a granular detail, doesn't it?
Definitely.
It goes down a definite, maybe not to total granular, but understanding goes down a level and gets into a little bit more detail around what actually is the issues that we've got here.
Yes.
And if you listen very carefully after asking those questions, you can pick up, and we've done it in the coaching sessions we have here, you can pick up on slight other things that are going on.
Definitely.
And then that could then inspire you to ask a slightly different question later on down the line.
Yes. The next question is then the focus question. So from asking the kickstart question of what's on your mind and what else, and maybe asking that or a variation of that a few times, the next question is, so what's the real challenge here for you? Because if we've been through all of that, we're actively, truly listening by asking questions. If we've then said and asked, what else? Based on that, again, we're taming our advice monster and saying, well, what's the real challenge here for you? Not for me, because this is you and this is your problem, your situation, your topic of conversation. So really help to kind of get that focus and helps kind of to funnel things down a little bit. Question 4, the foundation question. What is it that you want? What is it that you truly want? Yeah,
and having that conversation to say, is there something that I need some real support with, or is it obviously going into that detail and saying, look, what's next then? Mm-hmm. What is the next thing to happen? What do you want from this interaction? After you've created this great environment, which does provide you with that support, okay, let's have a little look. What is it that you want then?
Yeah.
Sometimes it can knock people back a little bit by going, you asking me? Mm-hmm. Oh, I was just going to be waiting for you to
tell me.
Because
you always tell me, because the advice monster takes over. Yeah. And what's really nice is by kind of finding out and exploring what that person wants, we can then focus on the next question, which is the lazy question, which is, how can I help? So if that's what you want and that's what you need, how can I help support with that? Because it might be that, you know what, that person doesn't need you to tell them and to save it or control it. It might be a case of, I just need you to listen because I know it. It might be, though, that the person is able to say, I know that you've faced this situation, this challenge before. I would really like your advice, not on what I should do, but on what you did.
Yeah, tools.
Yeah.
And that's different, by the way. That's different to jumping down somebody's neck and giving you advice, monster.
100%.
Listening to what people need from you is different because you're now informing yourself of what you can do for them.
Yeah.
Based on their opinion, not just yours and your own internal narrative.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Question 6, the strategic question. I know, James, this is a question that you love, cherish dearly.
Yeah.
I've heard you say it many times.
If you are saying yes to this, whatever this is, what, who, where, what, who are you saying no to?
Yes.
Because there is a yes and a no. And whether you are saying yes to being the most positive person on the planet, you are saying no to negativity and some of the things that come with that. If you are saying yes to asking the coaching habit questions, you are saying no to ambiguity, informing yourself and maybe not letting people go off on their tangents.
Yeah.
You're framing people and giving advice. I know full well that if sometimes, and in that example that I gave at the beginning, if I'm saying yes to bowling over, kicking the door through, making sure that everybody understands that I am offering my advice, monster, you are saying no to a productive environment.
Yeah.
And actually failing fast and learning quicker. Because sometimes they'll turn around and say, well, actually, I didn't understand that because all you did was just blurt it at me. You didn't actually listen to the question that I had. You just blurted it at me again. And now I'm in a situation where I don't understand. So if you are saying yes to that, you are saying no to those things as well. Or the opposite, if you like.
Yes, definitely. It's a really good question that can help gain clarity, especially when it comes to problem solving. And question 7 is all about learning. What is it that we can take away from this? So what was most useful for you?
And the thing that can go to a deeper understanding of what someone's actually got from the conversation.
Yeah.
So we've worked really hard on creating the right environment, having the communications needed, getting rid of distractions, and then all of a sudden you say, right, what are you going to take away from this? What's been the most important bit for you?
Yes.
And it's just that little line in the sand against it. Yeah, that's definitely what we've taken away.
Yes.
And I can provide clarity for that because now I can say it back to you and you listen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we're talking about takeaways and small takeaways sometimes, what people can learn from things, what can potentially people take away from listening to this podcast or hubcast, should I say, or from watching the video?
I think the 6 levels are on the Harvard Business Review, and they, like I say, if you wanted to go and look at this individually yourself, what great listeners actually do. Released in July 14th, 2016. And understanding that there is those 6 levels of creating those environments and what good listeners do. So level 1 to 6. I think the coaching habit questions, go and have a go with that. It's not the easiest thing to implement because you've got to have a listen to the TED Talk. Be curious.
Yes.
Be curious for longer, and then understanding that it is a bit of a process. You've got to get to know people, and that can then provide you with that environment, and people know what you're about. They know that you're not just going to go and give them all the answers.
Yes.
So you don't create that type of mindset where people come to you, oh, can you help me on this? Can you help me on this? You're really good at this. Oh, you did this last time. Now can you help me on this one? Everybody's busy, but the actual time that's committed to creating that environment, asking the right questions, should be able to provide you with a little bit of people come to you for the right reasons. That's maybe what they are saying yes to not coming to you about every small detail. But when something matters, that's when they need to come and talk to you, and you create that environment.
Definitely. I think it's really important. So tame your advice monster.
Oh, yes.
Understand your advice monster. So it will either tell it. That is you in those moments where someone says something, I've got all of the answers, I know how to, I know. In that moment, you check out from truly listening. So tame the advice monster. Remember, it might be a save it advice monster where if someone else fails, we'll fail, or control it. So understand it, tame it. And it's really important that we find a way to build a new habit, because when our advice monster, or we allow our advice monster to kind of take control of that situation, what is then happening is we are forming what's referred to as with AGH, which is an advice-giving habit. So sometimes it might be that I might not be able to truly adopt all of the fantastic coaching habit questions. Maybe the first step that I need to take is changing that advice-giving habit to simply be more curious. And I think if anyone is a little bit curious, we have recorded a full extended
version of this
conversation on all of this, which will be available on to listen to or to watch as well. So if we have sparked a bit of curiosity, then check out the extended version.
Thank you very much, Bernice, and we'll see you again for the next T2 Hubcast.